I'm Paul from Velo Works and I'm going to tell you why I love my Brompton. Today I'm going to talk about my Brompton. Many of my customers in Glasgow will know about the Brompton because I've bored them about it so many times. I got this bike in 2015 and we're at 2022 now, and I absolutely love it. To work in the bike industry, you've got to be pretty obsessed by bikes. And I've had a lot of bikes in my time, but this one is the one that I just love and the one that I really kind of obsess about. I don't know what it is, and maybe other Brompton owners will be able to sympathize with me, but there's something about the Brompton. When you ride it, when you have one in your life, you just love it. And if I could have one bike out of all my collection, I'd rather have my collection. But if I could have one bike, if someone said you can only have one bike, it would be this. So this one is the P6R. So it's got the very controversial P bars, which people ended up kind of, some people liked, some people didn't like. I love them. I've never really ridden with the other ones. I love these ones and I'm committed to that one. I went for the raw lacquer finish. So it's kind of got a kind of gunmetal-y finish, but it's got really nice brazing on it. So I believe the top brazers have to do this bike. Newer ones have a bit more of a different finish. It's much more glossier than this one. The P6R, which is a model that's not available anymore. The P is the bars, the 6 is the 6 gears, woohoo! And the R is the rack. So that's what came with the bike. I've put the reduced gear option, which is 44 tooth chainring rather than the 50. I'm thinking about, for kind of extended tours, putting a 40 tooth from H&H. So I'm hopefully going to get that for Christmas. I went for the Ortlieb bag at the front, which I've had for, well, ever since I bought it. It came with it and it's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant, so robust. We've got the Dynamo hub at the front, that came as standard, and I've put a Sine Wave Revolution on, so I can pop it up like that and the cable can come up into the Brompton bag when I need to charge, and that charges about 10% an hour, so it's really quite good if you're going camping.
What does it charge?
Charges phones, anything you want, really. I mean, it will have limitations, but 10% an hour for a phone it will charge. And it's got lights and it's got the rear lights. I ride SPD pedals just because I do like them, and it maybe affects the fold, the end size of the fold, but for me, I just prefer it. That's what I prefer. I've got the Brooks Cambion C17 saddle. That's lovely. I get on with them really well. That's just, I get on with them. Not everyone gets on with them, but I do, and I love them to bits. I prefer them than the leather ones. I've got a nice restrap bottle holder. That works really well because you can just leave it on folded. That's just been brilliant. Tyre choice, Marathon Pluses. There's no point going for anything else. The Marathons are great, the standard Marathons. Marathon Pluses on a Brompton, you don't really want to be having punctures, so they are the ones really. When they come new, you can have a pin, they will hold a pin in them without puncturing. So that's how good they are. They also create quite a lot of rigidity to the bike. I found that the Brompton original tyres were quite spongy, so I find that the bike is a little bit faster with the kind of harder tyres. I put the firmer block on just because of my weight, and I increased the size of the wheels. The only thing that I've had to do, because this frame is like a raw lacquer finish, you will see kind of the rust through, which I quite like it's like a patina, and I quite like it, but it got really quite bad on this bridge here, because the mudguard, and it does it on all Bromptons, came down all the way to the bridge. So I've kind of coated that in a different paint and then cut the mudguard just so it just doesn't hold there. I think on the powder coated Bromptons it's not too much of a bother, but on this one actually the rust did build up quite bad. And it may not be so much of an issue on the newer ones. They seem to have a really thick coat on them when we've seen them, because we want to get Sarah one. But just have a quick look at the beautiful weld there, just absolutely stunning. As you can tell, I am obsessed with the Brompton. I'm hoping to take it on a lot more tours. I mean, I've been starting to do that quite a lot. I've got the Brompton bag that comes off the back, and that works really well. I've flown with the bike and taken it to Berlin, and it was one of the best weeks of my life. I picked up the Rafa guide for Berlin and basically just followed it. They do a day on the bike. So you start at 9 o'clock in one part of the city, I think it was in the east, and then you end up in the west, and you have breakfast. Start with breakfast, and then you end with a pint, and it was just the best. To have this bike there, it's such fast cycling there. I could just navigate the city so quick. I've done loads of touring in Scotland, and it makes sense to tour with this bike. I love my Brompton. So as you can tell, I slightly love my Brompton, and I'm slightly obsessed by it. I think it's a great utility bike, coming around the city, leisure bike, and I also like it for touring. I absolutely love it. I found that it's a really good bike for touring, especially this model with the rack. You can have all of your luggage quite low down, so the bike's actually quite stable, and when you stand up it's not doing this, it's actually quite stable. You've got the option to fold it, and if you have a Brompton or a folding bike, I feel as though, why would I have anything else? Because there's so many opportunities that you can fold it. So we're currently living in a flat, so it's great. I can fold it and leave it on the ground floor. We've been to a boffy trip, and I can have it and bring it in with us. Coaches, trains, shopping. I rarely lock this up, so I don't have to worry about it being locked up. I can bring it with me, you can wheel it along. So I just think that they're really good. Have I told you I love my Brompton? If you wanted to do a tour, let's say you wanted to do a section in France, but there was a huge section you didn't want to do, you could just fold it up, put it on a train. And the good thing about it, I'm off on a train journey tomorrow to Cardiff, and it's fully booked for bikes. I don't even have to question it, don't even have to worry. Just turn up, get my ticket, fold my bike, and they can not let me on. On coaches, they're really good as long as you have a bag with you. They just like you to be able to put it in kind of a bag so it doesn't get oil everywhere. So I've done lots of cycle touring, and my reflection on cycle touring is when I've kind of done 60 to 70 miles a day. I did this trip in the Uis in the Outer Hebrides, and it was amazing. We did kind of South Uis and Benbecula and Berneray in a day, and it was amazing, but actually I didn't see loads. So me and Sarah have done more kind of micro tours, or we do more like 20 to 40 miles a day. And that means that you can actually really see somewhere and just spend a bit more time somewhere. So that's where the Brompton for me comes in. So on my road bike, I'll go and do like a 50 or 60 mile ride, whereas I can have a nice challenge doing a 30, 40 mile ride on this, or even a 20 mile ride. By now, I think we figured out that I'm slightly in love with my Brompton.
Are you in love with your Brompton?
A little bit, slightly obsessed by it. But what have I done in the 7.5 years that I've had it? So generally, it kind of looks after itself. The rear hub doesn't need servicing, so that kind of just looks after itself. I've had the pivot done in the rear triangle that had play in it. I think it's fine now. Yeah, there's no play there. I've rebuilt the wheels once, and probably next year I'll need to rebuild them again. The main thing I go for is chains and sprockets quite a lot, just because I do quite a lot of miles on the bike. Replace the tyres, and then generally just give it a bit of love. So we service Bromptons on a regular basis, and we love servicing them. Well, I like servicing Bromptons because they're fun. They need some specific little bits of maintenance here and there, but they're just generally a fun bike, and I love sharing my passion for them with other people. Through my experience of servicing them, they do need to be looked after. But if you do keep on top of them, on a day-to-day basis, you just want to mainly keep the bike clean. I'm not precious with my bike, I'll take it anywhere, but mainly you don't want to be leaving loads of muck around there. I'd be happy with this at the moment, but you know, ideally if this was all caked on, I'd want to give it a clean, but I wouldn't want to go and gun it with a hose. That would just get dry water into all the bits that you don't want it to be. You just want to do it lightly with a brush or a sponge. The garden sprayers that you pump, and you know, you wash it down with that with some muck off, or a similar type Finish Line do a good one, spray. So you spray on, pump your washer, hose it, and then you're good to go. And then just keep on top of the tyre pressures. They want to be 110 psi, and I would never go out on the Brompton without it 100 to 110. You protect your wheels. I remember I ruined a rim once in Glasgow just because the the road was so bad. I don't actually think that was because the tyre pressure was low, but if the tyre pressure is low, you're more open to those types of problems. Really, they just look after themselves. I do like keeping mine inside, and that's easy because it folds. Yes, I think we've established I love my Brompton. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment below any questions about servicing or looking after your Brompton, and tell us about your Brompton. We'd love you to subscribe to our channel. Hit the V on your screen. Happy cycling!